It was a morning like any other. The sky was clear, and the sounds of daily life began to fill the atmosphere. The person, who had led an active life full of movement, frequently exercising and taking care of their health, could never have imagined that a simple gesture would change their life forever. They were at home, bending down to pick up an object that had fallen to the ground. Something so trivial, so routine, that it seemed impossible for any harm to occur. But in that very moment, as they stood up, a crack followed by a sharp pain ran through their spine. A pain so intense that it paralyzed their body for a few seconds. At first, they thought it was something temporary. Maybe just a simple pain, something that would soon pass with a break or a change of position. But as time went on, the discomfort only grew. What initially felt like a slight annoyance quickly turned into a brutal attack of pain. Every movement, no matter how small, felt as if something had torn or shifted inside their spine. The posture that once felt natural and harmless now seemed impossible to maintain without intense suffering. The spine, which had always been the foundation of their body, now felt like it was turning against them, becoming a prison of pain and limitation. At first, the person tried to ignore it, forcing themselves to continue with the day's tasks. But the pain showed no mercy. It felt as though something was out of place, as if every movement was a failed attempt to regain control of their own body. What began as a simple action of bending down soon turned into a nightmare of relentless pain. That pain, which initially seemed temporary, soon revealed itself to be something much larger and more complex, a physical and emotional challenge that would deeply affect their daily routine, their well-being, and the way they would approach life from that moment on. The pain was overwhelming, but the impact wasn't just physical. It was as if their body had lost the ability to function normally. The sense of control had slipped away, and fear began to take over. The person tried, in every way possible, to go on with their daily activities, but the pain persisted, like an annoying shadow that could not be ignored. Every step seemed to weigh 3 times as much, and the slightest attempt to bend or crouch was accompanied by unbearable discomfort. They felt defenseless, unable to regain control over their own body. The worst part, however, was the frustration of seeing how the pain limited their actions. Simple tasks that had once been automatic, like getting out of bed, taking a shower, even cooking or taking care of the house, now became daily challenges. Feeling like a hostage to something that had once been invisible, like the health of their spine, was hopeless. The person tried to convince themselves that it was just a phase, a temporary pain that would soon go away. But as the days went by, relief never came, and the intensity of the pain only increased. It was as if they were on an emotional roller coaster, alternating between hope that the pain would disappear and fear that it would get worse. The impact on their social life could not be ignored either. Plans with friends, the physical activities that once brought joy, the small everyday interactions, everything began to feel like a burden. What had once been a source of happiness now seemed like a minefield, where every movement could result in more pain. The person found themselves pulling away, trying to avoid any situation that could intensify the suffering. Confidence in their own ability to move was slowly eroded, and the fear of making things worse became a constant. It was a vicious cycle, where physical pain generated growing anxiety and a sense of powerlessness. It was in this moment of extreme frustration that the person realized they could not continue living like this. The pain was not something that would simply disappear on its own. Action had to be taken, answers had to be sought, and an understanding of what was really happening to their body had to be found. The search for a more accurate diagnosis became inevitable, and the idea that the pain was just a passing phase no longer seemed plausible. The fear that the pain was only the beginning of a more serious issue started to set in, and a sense of urgency emerged. Something needed to be done. As the days went by, the pain that had once seemed temporary began to intensify, reaching proportions the person had never imagined. What started as a mild, bearable discomfort now turned into constant, incapacitating suffering. Simple daily tasks, those activities that were once done automatically, began to become insurmountable obstacles. Getting up from a chair, a mundane action, now required immense effort. The pain in the spine manifested with every movement, making each everyday action a painful task. Working on the computer, for example, something that had previously been done without a second thought, became a real challenge. The simple act of sitting for more than half an hour became unbearable. The discomfort forced the person to take constant breaks, standing, stretching, or even lying down to try to relieve the pressure on their spine, but nothing seemed to provide lasting relief. As the days passed, the inability to move without feeling pain intensified. The person could no longer get up from a chair without feeling sharp discomfort running through their spine. The pain was no longer confined to moments of physical exertion, it followed every movement, with each step taken. Even the simplest activities, like getting up to grab a glass of water or going to the bathroom, became moments of great discomfort. To make matters worse, the pain seemed to worsen at night, making sleep nearly impossible. The person, who had once slept soundly, now woke up frequently, unable to find a comfortable position to sleep in. The nights were long and torturous, and the feeling of fatigue and exhaustion only piled up. Moreover, the impact on family life was devastating. The person, who had once been able to help with everything, from carrying groceries to playing with the kids, now found themselves in a situation where even the simplest tasks were impossible. Carrying grocery bags became a torturous activity, and playing with the children, which had always been a source of joy and connection, now turned into frustrating moments, as they could no longer move with the agility they once had. The pain prevented any full interaction, and this brought a deep sense of guilt and frustration. The act of preparing lunch, a simple, everyday task, also became a burden. Standing for more than a few minutes caused unbearable pressure on their spine, and they found themselves forcing pauses to lean or sit for a moment of relief. The pain wasn't just physical, it emotionally affected them, deeply impacting their confidence and self-esteem. The person who had once been independent and full of energy now found themselves limited and dependent. The fear of worsening the situation became more and more present. They knew they couldn't continue like this, and the feeling of helplessness in not being able to solve the problem was overwhelming. The freedom of movement, something that had seemed guaranteed up until that point, had been taken away, and with it came a feeling of loss, as if part of their identity had disappeared. Each day was a constant reminder of their vulnerability, and doubts about the future began to multiply. What would their life be like if the pain became permanent? They felt trapped, not only by their body but by the uncertainty of what was to come. The pain was not only limiting physical activities but also deeply affecting the person's mindset and emotions. Mental exhaustion was accumulating as the constant battle against pain created a vicious cycle. The more the person tried to carry out their daily tasks, the more the pain debilitated them. This led to frustration, insecurity, and a growing sense of inadequacy. They felt like a shadow of their former self, unable to perform their roles with the same efficiency. To make matters worse, the need to depend more on others, even for simple tasks, fueled a sense of helplessness that eroded their self-esteem. The pain not only impacted the body physically but also affected the person's identity, which had always been defined by being active and capable. Each day without a solution felt like another defeat. Family life was also severely affected. The person could no longer participate in daily activities the way they once did. Playtime with the children, which had previously been moments of joy and connection, began to fade. Feeling unable to keep up with their pace created an emotional pain that was even more devastating than the physical pain itself. Additionally, the simple act of engaging in a leisure moment with the family became a burden. Sitting down to watch a movie with the children, something so natural before, now involved discomfort and unease. The frustration of not being able to be the active, present figure they once were took over with each new day. This change in routine even affected relationships with friends and colleagues. The person, who had always been sociable and involved, now found themselves distant, uncomfortable with the idea of going out or engaging in any activity that required standing or moving for any extended period. Even work meetings, which had previously been carried out easily, now turned into long, exhausting events. They had to fight against the pain to maintain the proper posture and often hid their suffering, forcing a smile while their body screamed for rest. This mental weariness, compounded by physical suffering, made the person feel disconnected, as if they were watching their life pass by from a distance, unable to participate fully. The psychological impact of the pain was even more profound as the person began to question whether they would ever be able to return to a normal life. They feared that if the pain persisted, it would become their new reality. The fear of no longer being able to resume activities with the same freedom was paralyzing. The mere thought that the pain could last indefinitely stirred up a whirlwind of emotions, including anxiety and a sense of despair. Visits to doctors and attempts to find solutions were beginning to seem increasingly fruitless. The physical toll was visible, but the emotional strain was also becoming unbearable. The person knew they needed answers, but the uncertainty about the cause and solution to their pain seemed like an endless road. Attempts to maintain a normal life were being replaced by days of adapting to suffering. What had once been a routine full of small joys now seemed to be just a constant effort to cope with discomfort. The fear of no longer being able to do things with ease became a daily concern, and the desire to find a permanent solution grew more urgent with each passing day. In the first few days after the pain began, the person tried not to panic. They believed it was a simple injury and that, over time, the discomfort would disappear. So, they resorted to more traditional solutions. They took painkillers, applied hot and cold compresses, tried to rest as much as possible, and even sought physical therapy sessions. But nothing seemed to work in a lasting way. The painkillers provided relief for a few hours, but the pain soon returned, often stronger than before. The compresses and physiotherapy exercises only brought temporary relief, and soon the pressure and discomfort would return. Frustration began to build up as time passed, and the sense that the problem wasn't being properly addressed became more and more evident. Medical consultations became more frequent. The first diagnosis suggested a simple muscle strain, something that seemed reasonable given the intensity of the pain and the initial movement that caused it. However, as time passed and the pain persisted, the person began to question the accuracy of this diagnosis. New exams, such as X-rays and MRIs, were conducted, and other diagnoses started to emerge. The doctor mentioned the possibility of a herniated disc, which could be pressing on the nerves in the spine and causing the intense pain. Each new diagnosis seemed to bring a flood of unanswered questions, and the treatments indicated for these conditions did not bring the expected improvement. The traditional treatments, like anti-inflammatories and manual therapies, were only temporary solutions, and the person could no longer understand why the pain persisted. With each failed attempt, the sense of helplessness grew. The pain, which had once been something that could be managed with some rest and care, now seemed to be becoming a constant, an unrelenting presence that showed no mercy. The person no longer knew what to do, and each consultation felt like another step into the unknown, with no guarantee of success. It was as if they were trapped in an endless cycle of attempts, where each new approach only seemed to take them further from a definitive solution. Frustration and emotional exhaustion began to dominate their thoughts. The feeling of being at the mercy of the pain, with no control over their own body, increased their anxiety. They felt as though they were on an endless journey, where, with every attempt at relief, more doubts arose and fewer concrete answers appeared. Moreover, the anxiety that the pain might become a constant companion in their life grew stronger. With each consultation, with each exam, the fear that their situation might be irreversible began to dominate their thoughts. Was this pain something that would follow them for the rest of their life? The fear of permanent limitation began to gain strength, and with it, the feeling that their quality of life was being stolen in an irreversible way. The person was becoming increasingly exhausted, not only from the physical pain but from the anguish of seeing traditional solutions fail. Each new step seemed like a shot in the dark, without guarantees, and the frustration of not finding an escape only increased the sense of helplessness. They wondered if anything would really work or if they would live with this pain forever. As conventional treatments proved ineffective, the person began to feel lost in a sea of uncertainty. The days passed, and with each new attempt at relief, what once seemed like a temporary situation was becoming an agonizing and permanent reality. Medical consultations began to feel like a tiring routine, yet the answers remained unsatisfactory. No matter how hard they tried to follow the specialist's advice, the pain persisted, turning every aspect of life into a challenge. Frustration started blending with a growing sense of despair as the person began to realize there was no simple solution to their problem. The fear of dealing with something more serious, perhaps irreversible, overwhelmed their thoughts. What had begun as a simple back pain now seemed to evolve into a chronic, complex issue that no one appeared capable of treating effectively. At this point, they decided to look for alternatives. The realization that conventional treatments weren't working led them to explore other options outside traditional medical practices. Some people suggested acupuncture, while others talked about alternative therapies like therapeutic massage and osteopathy. Although the idea of unconventional treatment seemed like a desperate step, the person felt exhausted from only trying traditional methods. With a heavy heart but a renewed desire to find a solution, they decided to venture into new possibilities. The first experience with acupuncture was a mix of skepticism and hope. Although it was a technique very different from anything they had tried before, the sense of relaxation during and after the session brought a slight feeling of relief. However, the pain soon returned, revealing that, while acupuncture provided temporary relief, it didn't address the underlying issue. This cycle of hopeful relief followed by setbacks became exhausting. Yet, in each of these attempts, they found themselves confronted with the reality that the cure might not be as simple as they had imagined at the start. Osteopathy was another path explored, and while the adjustments provided some temporary relief, the feeling that something was still unresolved lingered. With each new treatment, the person began to question whether the problem was truly physical or if there was an emotional or psychological component being overlooked. The pain, which once seemed so localized, now appeared to have a deep effect on their mind and their ability to cope with daily life. It was as if their perception of their body and the world around them was shifting, and the physical suffering was reverberating through their mental health. Each new consultation, each new alternative treatment seemed to bring more questions than answers. Yet, the search did not cease. They felt as though they were on a never-ending road, where every step taken brought them closer to healing, but still without the certainty of reaching the end of this journey. The fear that the pain was something they would have to live with for the rest of their life was always there, hovering in their mind, and the pressure to find a definitive solution didn't make the pain disappear. The person continued their search, trying to remain hopeful, but beginning to question what else could be done to finally find true and lasting relief. After months of frustrating attempts, conventional treatments, and alternatives that only provided temporary relief, the feeling of hopelessness was on the verge of taking over. However, a new step would soon be taken on this journey. A consultation with an alternative professional, specializing in integrated therapies, brought an unexpected light at the end of the tunnel. Instead of simply treating the pain as an isolated symptom, this new specialist adopted a completely different approach. Rather than viewing pain only as something to be relieved, he sought to understand the root cause of the problem. It was at this moment that a new perspective emerged: muscular and postural imbalances, which had previously gone unnoticed, were creating constant pressure on the spine, exacerbating the pain and limiting movement. It was as if, for so long, the person had been treating the effect, not the cause. The proposed treatment was very different from everything that had been tried before. Instead of simply applying techniques for temporary relief, the focus was on a deeper and more integrated approach. The professional suggested a series of specific exercises to strengthen the muscles supporting the spine, correct postural imbalances, and work on flexibility. Additionally, relaxation techniques were introduced to reduce the muscular tension that had accumulated over time. The most important aspect of this treatment was that it addressed not just the pain, but the entire musculoskeletal system in a holistic way. The idea was not to merely treat the pain in the moment but to rebuild the foundational support of the spine so it could function more efficiently and be less prone to injury. At the same time, postural adjustments were worked on, helping the person understand how their movements and positioning during daily activities were contributing to their suffering. Although it was a gradual process requiring patience and commitment, the results began to show sooner than expected. The pain, which once seemed insurmountable, started to decrease little by little. It wasn't a miraculous solution, but rather an approach that respected the body, providing a solid and progressive recovery. The sense of relief grew over time, and the person began to notice a real, tangible difference in their ability to move. The daily activities that were once extremely challenging began to be accomplished with more ease. Confidence, which had been devastated by chronic pain, was slowly restored. The person started to believe again that the freedom of movement, which once seemed lost, was possible to regain. Each day without pain became a victory, a step toward a fuller, more independent life. The person began to feel stronger, both physically and mentally. The pain that had dominated so much of their life began to be left behind, and the feeling of being able to regain control over the body, daily activities, and interactions with others was indescribable. The specific exercises, improved posture, and relaxation techniques weren't just a set of physical measures, but a new lifestyle that brought a new perspective on the importance of caring for the body in an integrated way. This approach brought not only relief from pain but also a new sense of freedom, something that had seemed impossible during the toughest moments of the journey. Each movement now came with gratitude, and the confidence that pain would no longer be a lifelong sentence was one of the greatest gifts of this recovery. As the treatment progressed and the results began to consolidate, the person experienced a sense of renewal, almost as if rediscovering their own body. Daily activities that once seemed like impossible obstacles were now approached with a new perspective. The simple act of getting out of bed, which initially caused tremendous discomfort, was now done more easily and without the constant fear of excruciating pain. Working on the computer, which once required frequent breaks due to suffering, was now performed with greater focus and without the painful interruptions. It was as if, finally, the person was regaining something they had thought lost, their freedom of movement. However, the process was not without its challenges. The recovery journey required constant adaptation and dedication, which was not always easy. In the beginning, the specific exercises and postural adjustments did not seem to bring quick results, and there were moments of doubt. The body, which had become so accustomed to an incorrect movement pattern, took considerable time to adapt. The person had to learn to be patient with themselves, recognizing that the path to recovery would be longer than they had hoped, but that each small advancement was a victory. The pain did not disappear immediately, but it gradually lessened, and each day without pain became a milestone of progress. Throughout this process, the person also began to adopt a more conscious and mindful approach to their own body. They started paying attention to the signals their body was sending, something they hadn't done with such attention before. They learned that to prevent the pain from returning, it was essential to maintain proper posture and do the exercises regularly, even during the small breaks in the day. Recovery became more than just a series of treatments, it became a daily practice, almost a philosophy of life, where caring for the spine and overall well-being became priorities. This new perspective was transformative, and the person began to see pain not only as something to be fought, but as an important signal that taught them the importance of listening to their body. Moreover, the recovery brought a deeper understanding of the balance between body and mind. The person realized that stress and emotional tension also played a significant role in exacerbating the pain, and they started actively working to manage these factors. Relaxation techniques and meditation, which were once seen as optional, now became an essential part of their routine. The connection between body and mind was strengthened, and the sense of control over the situation increased exponentially. The pain that had once been relentless and overwhelming now seemed to be under control, and the person began to feel more connected to themselves than ever. As the pain diminished and confidence in recovery grew, the person was able to resume activities they had abandoned for so long. Playing with their children again, walking for hours without worrying about pain, even doing more intense exercises, became a possible reality. The feeling of being able to make choices again, without being limited by pain, brought immense gratitude. The fear that the pain would be permanent was replaced by a renewed optimism and the certainty that, with patience and persistence, even the most difficult challenges could be overcome. Now, the person had not only recovered physically, but had also emerged from this journey stronger, more resilient, and with a new appreciation for health and the body. After months of suffering and a constant battle against pain, the person finally understood that the experience, though painful, had brought with it a crucial lesson about health and well-being. The pain, which initially seemed like an insurmountable obstacle, turned into a turning point. It revealed the importance of listening to the body, understanding the signals it sends, and adopting a more conscious and preventative lifestyle. During the recovery process, it became clear that spinal health should never be something left on the back burner until it is too late. Neglect and lack of preventative care had contributed to the worsening of the situation, making the pain almost unbearable. Now, this person knew that taking care of the body, especially the spine, could not be ignored or treated as secondary. The true transformation occurred not only by regaining freedom of movement but by learning that health must be prioritized every day, before pain or limitation become an inevitable reality. Throughout the recovery, they realized that the real secret to preventing future crises was prevention, strengthening the body, and constant attention to physical needs. The search for solutions that focused on the cause of the problem, not just the symptoms, was key in restoring their quality of life. Today, the person understands that a holistic and integrated approach, combining physical, emotional, and postural care, is essential to ensure long-lasting well-being. This renewed perspective on health is one of the greatest achievements of this journey. Pain was not just something to overcome but an invitation to a profound change in how one relates to their body and health in general. Now, with a clearer view of the importance of self-care and prevention, they share their story with others, not only to warn about the risks of neglecting spinal health but also to inspire those going through similar struggles. The message is clear: it is possible to find alternative and effective solutions, and pain, although intense, can be a catalyst for change. The person who lived through this experience knows that, even in the most challenging moments, one should never give up on seeking alternatives and investing in their health. They have become an advocate for preventative care and awareness about the importance of listening to the body before crises become inevitable. This journey also brought a new appreciation for autonomy and the ability to live without limitations. The person truly felt grateful for being able to resume everyday activities that were once taken for granted but now represented significant achievements. Taking care of themselves and feeling free from pain was one of the greatest victories of their life. The recovery was not just physical but also a reclaiming of quality of life and independence. The person learned to value every movement, every daily task, and, above all, the importance of not waiting for pain to become chronic before taking preventive actions. Today, they not only feel physically renewed but also more conscious of the need to maintain a healthy body. The pain that once seemed like an unbeatable enemy has been transformed into an opportunity to learn, grow, and live more fully and balanced. Now, they share this story with the hope that more people can learn from their experience and avoid making the same mistakes. Pain, though harsh, served to teach a powerful lesson. Health is a precious asset that deserves continuous attention, and it is never too late to start taking care of oneself. As the pain gradually diminished and life began to normalize, the person started to realize even more the value of the lessons learned. Not only about the importance of caring for the spine, but also about how the body as a whole requires constant attention, and how often we neglect this need until suffering becomes inevitable. The learning that came with the pain was profoundly transformative, shaping their way of living permanently. Before, they believed that the body was something that should be cared for only when there were clear signs that something was wrong. Now, they understood that health should not be a luxury or an occasional concern, but a daily, integral practice that must be part of the routine. The experience made them value self-care not just as a way to avoid pain and limitations, but as a way to prevent potential crises in the future. Small adjustments in posture, paying attention to any muscle discomfort, and the regular practice of strengthening exercises became essential habits to ensure the pain wouldn't return. Furthermore, the person began to understand that emotional balance also plays a fundamental role in physical health. Stress and emotional tension, often ignored or underestimated, have a direct impact on how the body responds to movement and effort. The combination of physical, emotional, and mental care became part of a new lifestyle that they strove to maintain every day. With this new perspective, they also began to share their experience more actively, not only with family and friends but also in online communities and platforms, with the intention of helping those going through the same pain. They knew how difficult it was to deal with frustration and the fear that the pain would never go away, so they shared the strategies that worked for them and the paths that led to their recovery. Their story wasn't just a warning about the importance of caring for the spine, but a message of hope and persistence for those at the beginning of their own recovery journeys. The pain they had faced was incredibly difficult, but it was precisely this adversity that gave them the opportunity to completely change how they saw health and well-being. In addition to inspiring others to seek alternative and more effective solutions for chronic pain, they also began to encourage the importance of continuous professional monitoring. Often, people try to cope with pain and limitations on their own, ignoring the importance of specialized support to identify the causes and choose the right treatments. The consultation with the alternative practitioner was a turning point, and they began to emphasize the importance of exploring different treatment approaches openly and without prejudice, as a way to find what truly works for each individual. Over time, the person not only recovered from the physical pain but also reconnected with a new type of inner strength. They knew that the journey was still not completely over and that, to maintain spinal and body health, daily care would be necessary. The pain, although tense and overwhelming, had transformed into a source of motivation. Instead of something that paralyzed them, they now used the memory of the pain as fuel to care for themselves with more dedication. This pain journey, then, transformed into a journey of self-discovery and self-care, where the person discovered that true health comes from a continuous commitment to one's own body and life balance. In the end, they felt stronger than ever, not just physically, but emotionally, knowing that they had the ability to overcome even the greatest challenges with patience, resilience, and, above all, the awareness that health is the foundation of everything. And so, the story of overcoming this pain reminds us of something very important. The health of our spine and our body as a whole requires constant attention, not just when the pain becomes unbearable. Each of us has the ability to change the course of our story, to prevent and care for our health, and that is exactly what we aim to do here on this channel. If you identified with this story or are looking for more tips on how to take care of your health, improve your quality of life, and prevent problems like back pain, subscribe to the channel. Together, we can learn more about what really works to keep our health in check, understand how small changes in daily life can make a big difference, and, of course, continue sharing inspiring stories of transformation and overcoming challenges. Don't forget to activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new content, and if you found this video helpful, leave a like and share it with someone who might benefit from this message. We are building a community where health and well-being are priorities, and your participation is key. Your health journey begins with a simple step, and that step could be here, today. Subscribe and join us on this journey toward a healthier life, free from limitations and full of new accomplishments.